So it's not this in the United States, in New York City or San Francisco or Los Angeles or London, where rent is like too damn high. It's high all over the fucking place, and like people, and then it was making this high
And
because
Germany said, we've had enough.
yeah, they said fuck that, fuck having one guy owning half the city, you know. So this is pretty much what happened. They pretty much expropriate large landlords in a non-binding referendum, and so in layman's terms, they pretty much took all these
But
on
it
the
said it's
ballot.
not binding, though. I thought they just snatched that shit.
Oh, not. I mean, it's gonna take some time to do this kind of shit. So around 36, while 56 cast vote about in favor of the non-binding initiative compared to 39 against. The Berlin government said following Sunday's vote, which was held alongside elections for the city government and the national parliament. So it's 96% pretty much winning. It said it reached. So pretty much what's going on. Like everywhere in the world, public anger has been growing in Berlin over tenant rights and affordable housing, which were a major issue in the election campaign in the traditionally left-leaning German capital. So pretty much, the campaigners hoped the city would take control of over 240,000 apartments. Um, that's a lot of apartments. So, so this is what's happening right now. I want to play a video that puts it in context to show that everyone heard about the headlines of this, but it's actually been happening for a long time. Like everyone else, New York City, we literally had a weird ass black dude that ran for mayor because of the rent is too damn high, and I was like, how many years ago? So this story that happened in Berlin
He's
is
not
not new.
weirder than Adams, though.
Oh my God, isn't that crazy? Like you wish you went too damn high. The guy to come back compared to Eric Adams is crazy. So this video I think is about a year ago that talks about how crazy fucking rent and tenant rights in Berlin is. Um,
Berlin, Germany's vibrant capital city, long considered to be a renter's paradise. Over 3/4 of the population here rent, but Berlin's popularity means property is in high demand. While renting is cheap here compared to other European centres, in the last decade, average rents have doubled. And now an increasing number of renters are finding themselves in impossible
Can't wait to
situations.
find out how much
People like
per
Nicholas,
month.
he's lived in the same flat for 8 years, when out of the blue last December, he and the rest of his building got a nasty surprise from the landlord.
Here were two girls living, they moved out. And then we have two apartments that are rented, and the rest four are empty. People are stressed or have fear and afraid of what's going to happen, so they just leave. So this is the apartment.
Inside his flat, Nicholas shows me a letter from the landlord saying that upgrades to the building would mean his rent would triple.
No.
Here you can see it. Says they're gonna raise the rent from 450 to 1,400.
Wow, that's tripling the rent.
That's tripling the rent.
I asked him what that would mean for him.
No, that would mean that we have to move out, or I have to move out. I actually don't want to think about it, but I think I needed to. If I'm lucky, I have some friends who has like a couch or something. But
So you could end up on someone's sofa if they did that.
After seeking legal advice, he told me he received
triple
a
someone's
second
rent?
letter
Yo,
saying
son.
that the rent would only be doubled. But for Nicholas, even that will be a stretch. He will
Did you hear
fight
that?
this.
No, not
And it's
triple.
one fight in
Doubled.
particular nearby.
I'm trying to figure
has
out what these
inspired
upgrades
him
were.
and others.
This is
Upgrade your
Carl
ass.
Did they
Marks
upgrade it to,
Alley,
like,
where
indoor plumbing?
Hundreds of residents have been on the front line in the fight against privatisation and soaring rents. It's also where there's been the first large-scale victory here in Berlin, where people power won over private companies. Last November, residents living here on Karl Marx Alley, formerly communist East Berlin, were told their flats were going to be bought by another private property company, Deutsche Wohnen.
That's really
Fearing
ironic.
that a new owner would mean rent increases and then being evicted.
Karl Marx
people
Alley?
banded together,
Victor ass out of Karl
staging
Marx Avenue.
protests and marches, eventually convincing the local government to buy a total of 670 flats. Perhaps a move even Karl Marx himself would approve of.
Those apartments look better than the other dudes, to be honest.
Ellen, who is 81, and
Wow,
her
she
best
looked like
friend
Betty
Crystal,
White.
who's 86, have lived on Karl Marx Alley for most of their lives.
Raising the rent on the cat, too.
Hi, nice to meet you. Hi, I'm Lucretia.
Cat better find a
Hi.
fucking job.
Hallo,
It's fucking laying there.
Catch a
Purchase
rat or
means
something.
They can stay here.
Ich wohne seit 1. September 1953 in der Karl-Marx-Allee.
What did you first think when you heard that the rents
That's
might
sick.
be going up? What went through your minds at that time?
Naja,
You don't want to kick old ladies
das
out in
war
the
schon
street,
nicht so
Dr.
einfach.
Eugenius?
Wir haben schon uns Gedanken
Well,
gemacht, aber dann sind hier
how
noch
much money
viele,
can I
die
make from
alleine
doing
sind,
so?
die keine wichtigen Rente haben, Frauen, die geschieden sind,
This is the
die
international
im
dash and bash.
nur ein Einkommen haben. Die haben natürlich große Probleme.
Were you on those protests? Were you out there campaigning as well?
Na, alles.
Haben wir
Wir waren überall,
zu
haben alles
jeder
mitgemacht.
Versammlung,
Zu jeder Versammlung, alles,
Alles.
wo aufgerufen wurde, haben wir uns beteiligt.
And there's been a lot of young people behind this campaign using computers and social
Computers.
media. That's all really new to you, isn't it?
Es haben sich viele, viele junge Leute zusammengetan und haben auch an uns alten Leute auch gedacht. Und
Weil die Masse hat das erreicht. Nicht jetzt bloß ein Einzelner oder zwei, sondern
Das
wirklich
stimmt.
alle und viele. Und das ist wichtig.
The move to essentially renationalise these properties is estimated to have cost the council in the region of €100 million, and they intend to buy more. But how sustainable is this? I head across town to the offices of Deutsche Wohnen, Berlin's largest private property company, at the centre of all of this. They own and rent more than 100,000 properties here. I ask them what they make of being portrayed as enemy of the people.
Und wenn man der größte
We're just trying to get
Vermieter ist,
rich,
ist
you
auch
know?
klar, dass so eine Kampagne
That's all.
auch sich den größten raussucht und den in den Namen nennt.
They say the problem isn't just about rising rents, it's that in Berlin, the supply of housing stock simply does not meet demand.
Hier wird sehr, sehr viel Geld ausgegeben, um einige wenige Wohnungen zu kaufen und somit zu tun faktisch, als wenn man damit das Wohnungsproblem in Berlin lösen könnte. Diese vielen Millionen Euro, die jetzt investiert wurden, die muss man in den Neubau investieren.
I mean, I spoke to some of the people living there, and there was a huge concern that, you know, if your company did take over, that they just wouldn't be able to afford the rents.
Die Menschen in Berlin haben zu Recht die Sorge, dass sie ihre
Yeah, because we are jacking up the rents and fuck 'em.
Das ist richtig. Aber bei der Deutsche Wohnen ist die Miete im letzten Jahr um 1,4% gestiegen. Unsere Mieten sind nur leicht höher als die der staatlichen Unternehmen.
The dudes say you tripled
He's
it.
lying his ass off.
Berlin's left-leaning coalition government may have a new strategy, a 5-year rent cap expected from January 2020. But some say this would drive away investment and exacerbate the severe housing shortage in the city.
Why do we need more and more investment?
Although it's
Investment
clear
in
that
what?
Berliners are not willing to give up the fight. Pockets of campaign groups are joining forces. This typically artful Berlin-style protest aims to disrupt a parliamentary dinner, hosting several private property companies.
It's really interesting what's happening here because there are several campaign groups
Was that Boris
who have got
Johnson?
together tonight. They're really
Crazy
angry
ass
about what's
hair.
happening
There's
right across the
left
road
shark over there.
That is a social networking event for politicians, parliamentarians and private property companies. And what they're saying is that just shouldn't happen. In fact,
So all the
banner
rich
over
people are
there, it
meeting
says
right now
no
to talk
more
about the poor
lobbying
people outside,
for
pretty
private
much.
property companies. That's the message.
I hear a lot more stories about
How do we
landlords
get rid of these
raising
poor people?
rents.
We got an informative letter
They're
last
clapping
year in
too loud.
October.
Do we pay them off or
and,
rub
they
them
want
out?
to modernize my flat, and the rent is supposed to be increasing by 76%.
So why does this guy say
These groups
1.4%
are
increase?
getting small wins, Talking to organizer Tom, who moved here from the US.
Because it's only like 1.4% lower than what he wants it to be.
Berlin is a world open city. It's alternative. It's fun. It's beautiful. It's you can do anything you want in Berlin, basically. And I really think
this is before the pandemic. No one's wearing masks.
It needs to remain open for everybody and affordable mostly, and also work for the people that live in the city as well.
Whether it's building new housing stock or attempts by the state to control rents, what is clear is that there are no easy answers. Rising housing costs is an issue many large cities face.
So that shows you the backdrop of what's going on in Berlin. Like a giant company was coming in, buying up hundreds of thousands of apartments.
If it works in America, it'll work here.
What are
you gonna do?
Yeah, so that's what happened, and they finally able to like have this incredible thing that happened and buy them back. The housing stock. I hate how they use human stock and housing stock. They always use the word stock when they talk about things like we're like cattle. So weird. But that's Global Earth News. It's kind of a good news in some ways. You know, people able to afford. I mean, $1,400 in euros. How much that is in American dollars?
I think it's closer to $2,000.
So that guy's rent either tripled. If it tripled, it was $2,000. And how much was it originally? That means it was like $800 or some shit like that. Like,
yeah, like when I heard the low number, I was just like, oh, you know. But they also did say that Berlin is home to some of the cheapest rents. So 1635. So his rent was probably like 500 and some change.
What? 500 and some change? And then now he's saying he's gonna get out in the streets because it's 1600. Yo, if New York City people in New York City knew about that, like how much we're paying for rent, and we don't do shit about it, that's crazy.
I mean, and it's crazy because a lot of our viewers know that, you know, we came up under really adverse circumstances in this city.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how like the dude is like, damn, they're gonna triple my rent to an amount that's still way lower than anything going on in New York City. It really should like give people the proper frame of reference as to just how difficult the economic situation is here in New York City. And then when you look at how they want to keep jacking up the rents, but then they want to say, hey, you should want to work for only $8.25 an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like somebody questioned me earlier today. Oh, you know, entry level jobs should pay entry level money, blah blah blah. But it's like you want the labor, right?
What the fuck does it even mean?
So there are some people out there that believe that because business owners offer a certain amount of money, that's what that job is worth. But it's like,
but do you want your worker to exist in the universe?
Yeah, so it's like, how are you going to have labor if your labor can't exist? I've actually had people campaigning against giving people a living wage, but you believe that the proprietor is entitled to labor no matter what dollar amount they're offering. So if they offered $0, they're entitled to labor, but then you tell workers that they're acting entitled. But it's like if the laborer doesn't have enough money to get back to work the next day, then you still don't have a labor force.
And that's why people are not even showing up at these jobs now, because they know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like somebody said, oh, you know, nobody in their right mind would take $0 an hour when there's 15 available. Then I said, well, if 0 and 15 leads to the same fate, which is being homeless, people are going to save their energy and their dignity, and they're going to take the 0 if 0 and 15 has the same outcome.
And the stats are literally showing that even though they index in unemployment, people are still not looking for jobs.
Yeah, people. Yeah, like they keep saying, "Oh, generous unemployment." What, $0 is generous?
Yeah.
Right? Like
people are quitting jobs. That means they're not getting unemployment when you quit a job.
Right, but nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about that, right? And you see what's going on in Berlin. They're like, "Yo, give us our apartments and go fuck off. And you hear these people with the doomsday, oh, but what happens when they stop, investing? People will be able to live. That's what happens when people stop investing.
Berlin is still there. Berlin didn't blow up when they passed the bill. It didn't disappear.
Yeah, and you act like, like you can't rent an apartment to a plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, and all these people, and then you can keep up the building.
Yeah.
Like, why do we need people trying to monetize every facet of human existence? And then when there's nobody to make money off of, all of a sudden, the economy doesn't work and people are lazy. Like, no, you've been exploiting people for so long that people just say, all right, if I'm not going to win either way, then I'm not going to fucking lose making you win.
And that's what's happening right now. It's playing out in real time. It's crazy to see it.
And it's crazy, like, people, and it also kind of, I was arguing with somebody today about the concept of greed and how I support greed, but only greed to a certain extent. Because if you're so greedy that it causes the people to revolt and then they hang your head on a pike, then all of that getting rich meant nothing, because then your head is on a pike, right?
Yeah, like the meme, if someone was gathering newspapers in their house to the point they can't move around their house, that'd be a problem. That's a problem. That's someone's life. But for some reason we don't see that with money. We don't see that with money. So
you look at how people in Germany have revolted over basically $1,600 a month apartments, and look at what we are putting up with.
Yeah, no one can afford.
We don't have $1,600 apartments.
Now we're in the country. They don't exist anymore.
Like
maybe that Airbnb,
and we're still accepting it. So if you look at what Germany is doing, and they're saying, "Yo, we're not accepting $1,600 a month rent." I mean, I'm about to just move out of New York and go straight to Berlin, son, because they got $1,600 a month rents, man. You know what I'm saying? And if they have said the line in the sand is tripling our rents from reasonable to outrageous, but we've been living at outrageous, what does that mean for the investor class of this country if they keep pushing to push people further and further into despair? And these are the same people that want to complain about crime rates. And it's like these people are committing crimes of desperation that you put them in, and then you mad when you getting mugged. Right? Germany is like, yo, we're going to mug you for the entire apartment building, and you're lucky we're not going further than that. How much longer do you think the American is going to continue to put up with this?
Yeah.
And then what does it look like when they finally say enough is enough? Is it going to be all nice and pretty? Because again, I got to go back to the protests of Colin Kaepernick, right? And it's apropos because it's fall season, right? Yeah. People didn't like it when Colin Kaepernick was taking a peaceful, silent knee, but then when people are willing to disrupt the entire economy, all of a sudden, this is not the right way to do it. But when people are doing peacefully, you got a problem with that.
Yeah.
Right? So when it comes to the economic issues, which is just as much of an injustice as a black man being killed in the street, how much longer will people keep saying, can you stop tripling my rent so that I can have a place to live, so that I can participate in the economy? What happens when you get enough people that could no longer participate in the economy?
But that's what they're doing. They're making that enough people right now.
But then they're going to call those people savages when they start coming after the rich.
I mean, we have this global thing happening across the world. We have Haitians at the border. We have it's happening. So at least in Berlin, like they're dealing with it in a civil way in the courts. Do protests and do like response from the tenants themselves over the years. It got to this huge point in that documentary that I showed. We talked about that was from like a year ago. Before that's like more than a year ago, because before the pandemic, almost 2 years ago, to show you that momentum was building. And then just come out of nowhere, the rich guys, and all of a sudden say, "Oh, here's the apartment." Then it's like just do it for them, do it like out of the kindness of their hearts.
Hell no.
So I do want to also talk about that too. Then it's like, hey, okay, you guys can have these apartments. We're not like kick you the fuck out and put a skyscraper there. Sure.
I like how he tried to make himself the victim. Yeah, we're being singled out because we bought all the apartments. Who the fuck else am I supposed to single out? The guy renting his van as an Airbnb? No. No. No, we're
Here in
being
America-
singled out because,
here
you
in
know, we're the
America,
worst of the worst of the worst.
That's what's crazy. Here in America, we single out the Airbnb van guy. That's who we single out in America. Leave the Airbnb guy the fuck alone. So what about the giant landlord that owns half the city?
And we got regular Joe Schmoes fucking snitching on that guy. Who's snitching on the Berlin investor guy? Who's snitching? Nobody. Fucking bullshit, man.
So that's Black Power Magic Hour. That's like a Dash and Bass Global Earth News kind of like hybrid segment. So you can follow
German 9999 edition.
Yeah, they said fuck that.
Yep.
So you can follow us on Twitter, Twitch. We're on TV, streaming live, and also you can check like recorded.
Hey, Mom, on TV.
We're on YouTube on act.tv, which has over 55,000 subscribers, and then Dr. Eugene is live on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and that's Global Earth News / Power to the People.